Hi, welcome to Mr. McKellar's Algebra 1A class, and today we're going to continue our lessons on slope. But the first part is just going to be a quick review. What I have right above my head is I have 2 points, a negative 5, comma 8, and a 5, comma negative 4, right? So I do have a nice coordinate plane over here. I do have my coordinates plotted, but let's make sure and double check that they're correct. So I start back at my origin, and the first point says negative 5, so that's my x. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 8, which is my y. So I'm going to count up because it's positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is accurate. So I do have a negative 5, comma 8 right there. And then my second point says it's a 5, comma negative 4. So I'm going to start again at the origin. Always go, x is first, so go left to right. And so I'm going to count over 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I have a negative 4 for the y coordinate. And I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4. And we are at 5, comma, negative 4. Right? So, finding slope is relatively easy, just because we know that slope is basically what we call the rise over the run. We know by rise that is our up and down coordinate. So that's my that's my y axis, because the y's go up and down, right? And my run usually just goes side to side. So it can actually go backwards too. So we have rise over run, y's over my x's. So all I have to do is, remember, we're always looking at a coordinate plane from this vantage point. You're always looking from the left. So I start up here. That's going to be my first dot. And it looks like I'm going to have to count down. So let's do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I'm at 12, right? So, because I went 12, but remember, I went down. So when you go down, you want to make that number a negative. So, it's negative 12 because I went down. Now I'm going to run over. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? So I went over 10 spaces to get to that dot. And we have a negative 12 over 10 as our slope. Our line appears to have a negative slope because it is going down. And mathematically, we have a negative sign. So my slope matches how my line looks. Now, I can go through and reduce fractions, and we should. And 10 and 12 are both even numbers. So we can just divide those by 2, and that will give us a negative 6 on the top and a 5. What did you ask? Oh, will that change your slope? It does look much different from 10 over 12, but let's just see if it actually does change our slope. So according to this, all we have to do is go down 6 spaces and run over 5. Let's check that out. So I'll start up here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then count over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom, right on the line. Perfect, right? So let's see if I count down 6 and over 5 again and land on our last point. So let's try that again. So again, starting from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom! There we are. So, no, this did not mess up the slope of this line. It's simply reduced. So, that is a quick lesson on how to find slope when you're given 2 points and when you're using a coordinate plane. Have you guys seen it? I lost my coordinate plane. I don't know where my coordinate plane is. I don't know how to find slope if I don't have a coordinate plane. If I just have two dots and a line, where am I supposed to start? Where's the x and y axis? Where's the origin? How do I make sure that this is down how many? What do I do to find slope if I don't have a plane? I mean, what do I do? You relax, because that's what today's lesson's about. So what we're going to be covering today is what we call the slope formula. And that's going to be the title of today's actual lesson. So go ahead and write this at the top of your paper. Slope formula. And the slope formula is m equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So, take a moment. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that. But make sure that this is your title. So, slope formula, and then write down this equation, right? Or this formula. All right, time's up. So, moving on. Let's go back to where I was given 2 points, right? So I have my 2 points. I'm just going to write them down here. So I was given a -5, 8, and I was given a 5, -4. But as you can see, we no longer have a coordinate plane. Now, I was smart enough to kind of write our answer from the last problem up here. So I still have my -6/5. Right? But there's a lot of questions that pop up with this formula. Like, first of all, why are the y's on the top? Right? Well, remember, what is slope? It's rise over the run. And in our coordinate plane, which axis goes up and down? The y-axis. So, that's why the y's are on the top. The x's are on the bottom because they're the run. Right? But what is the little 2 and the 1 and this 2 and this x1? What is all that jargon? Well, I'm glad you guys are all wondering that. So, here's our 2 points. Here's step number 1. Also write this down. So, step 1. Label the points. All right. Simply put, I have 2 points. Every point is an ordered pair, right? It's ordered because it's alphabetical. It goes X and then a Y. Well, I have a second point. So that's an X and that's a Y. So what do? You do the same thing that every teacher does when there's 2 kids in the same room with the same name, like John. Right? I say John number 1, John number 2, John number 1, John number 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this point number 1, and I'm just going to call this point number 2. Keep it simple. So when I go to my X and Y, because it says, hey, what's your X? Like, I don't know. I got 2 of them. I got a -5 and a 5. I'm going to do this. I'm going to call this one X1. I'm going to call this Y1, because it's my first point. This is my second point, so I'm going to go X number 2, Y number 2. Right? So pretty straightforward, but make sure that you label your points always. Right? And label them X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Okay, what is my second step? All right? The second step is write the formula. Right? You're going to have to memorize this formula. So it's going to have to go from your paper to your mind. And it's going to have to sit in your mind. But don't worry, I'm going to help you. Because when I look at your homework, every single problem that involves slope formula, you're going to have to write it out. So let's get to step number 2. So step number 2 is write it out. So I put my m equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So every single problem that you do today, I better see this as step number 2. All right, step 3. Step 3 is we're going to create the setup. Create the setup. Well, what do I mean by that? Here's what I mean. Draw a large a large fraction bar. You see these 2 minus signs? I want you to write those, but make them on the big side. This is going to be our set, and it's going to get us ready for step number 4. So 3 and 4 are pretty close related, and you'll see why. So step number 4 is plug it in. Or plug in the x's and the y's. So I have it labeled. I have my formula. All I have to do is this. y2 goes here. What's y2? Negative 4. y1 goes next. What's y1? Oh, I have it labeled. It's 8. Come down to the bottom. My x2, 5. And my x1, negative 5. Now, the reason I want your minus signs larger and writing those down first in the setup is because when you come and you have a negative 5 or any negative number, I don't want this to turn into this. Some people might just put 5 and then put down negative 5. And that would be wrong. It should be a minus with this. All right, now step 5 is the easy part. This one, we do the math. Now, if you're not good with your positive and negative numbers, then you plug it into the calculator exactly how it's seen up here. You would type in a negative 4, put minus, and then you just put a regular 8. Now, what the calculator will do, and if you know how to do this, this is great, is basically when you go negative 4 minus an 8, the calculator will basically change that to a plus sign, make that a negative 8, and we get a negative 12 on the top. Then again, type in 5 minus, so hit the minus button, but then also make sure that you put in a negative 5. If you just go 5 minus 5, you're going to get a 0, and it's going to be wrong. So you got to go 5 minus and then type in a negative 5. If you do that, again, the calculator will basically go change the sign and make that a 10. And doesn't that look familiar? So our last step is reduce. So if I divide both of these by 2, I'll get my negative 6, comma 5. And isn't that the exact same slope that we got when we had the line and the coordinate plane and we counted? So if they take away the coordinate plane, and that's what's going to happen today, and you're left with 2 points, you're going to have to use the slope formula, right? So you're going to go ahead and do this. You're probably going to have, and I'm going to give you your own one. All right, so here's your practice problem. You have a 3, 2, and a negative 7, negative 8. I left this up. Make sure you work through these steps.